talk about countries like their ideas: democratic, free, powerful. But what if we judged nations like we judge people? Not by what they say, but by what they do. In court, a witness isn't believed because they sound sincere. They're judged by their track record. If they've lied before, no one trusts them. So why do we cut countries, especially powerful ones, so much slack? Let's look at the US, one of the most influential nations in modern history, not to trash it, but to be honest. And let's use the best sources out there: the UN, the IPCC, the International Court of Justice. Because if we want a fair world, we need honest accounting. Character is revealed by actions, not speeches. That's not just a quote from a self-help book, it's how international law works. The ICJ doesn't care about your PR. It looks at state practice, what you actually do, and whether you act like you're following the rules. Treaties: the UN checks if you keep your word. Military action: the UN Charter sets the rules. Break them, there should be consequences. So let's test that. Take Iraq, 2003. The US said Iraq had WMDs and posed an imminent threat. Turned out, it didn't. The US government's own Iraq survey group confirmed it. No WMDs. Hans Blix's UN team found nothing before the invasion. Kofi Annan, then UN Secretary General, called it illegal, not controversial, not debatable. Illegal under the UN Charter. Result? Over 200,000 dead, millions displaced. A power vacuum that helped spawn ISIS. If a person lied to get someone hurt, we'd call it a crime. When a country does it, we call it foreign policy. Why? What about trust? In 2015, the US helped broker the Iran nuclear deal backed by the UN. It's verified by the IAEA. Iran was complying. Then, in 2018, the US pulled out. No violation, no warning. Chief Guterres expressed regret. Europe called it unjustified. Iran restarted enrichment. Diplomacy took a hit. Same story in Syria. The Kurds fought alongside US troops against ISIS. The Pentagon called them trusted partners. Then in 2019, when Turkey attacked, the US just left. Overnight, the UN warned of serious human rights abuses. If a friend ditched you after you saved their life, you'd question their loyalty. Why don't we demand the same from nations? Now, climate change. The IPCC is clear. Past emissions drive today's crisis. The US is responsible for about 25% of all CO emissions since 1750, more than any other country. China's at 13%. Much of it recent. So how's the US responding? Signed the Kyoto Protocol in 1998, refused to ratify it in 2001, joined the Paris Agreement in 2015, left in 2017, rejoined in 2021 today. It's still the world's second largest emitter, according to the UNEP. Current policies won't meet even its own climate targets. Meanwhile, the U.S. spends $877 billion a year on military, more than the next 9 countries combined. But on climate aid for vulnerable countries, it gives about $11 billion a year, less than a tenth of what it should pay based on responsibility and wealth. The UN and Oxfam have called out rich nations for failing their $100 billion promise. The U.S. is a big part of that failure. So when the U.S. tells other countries to act on climate, who's really listening? Here's the double standard. When Russia invaded Ukraine, 141 countries condemned it. The ICJ stepped in. Rightly so. But where was that outrage in 2003? Where's the accountability for U.S. actions in Afghanistan, where the UN documented torture and civilian deaths? The ICC tried to investigate. The U.S. responded by sanctioning ICC officials. That's not justice. That's impunity. As a former UN human rights chief put it, double standards erode the whole system. So let's be real. How do we judge a country? Not by its slogans, not by American exceptionalism, by its record. And the record shows. Wars started on false pretenses, ruled illegal by the UN. Treaties broken, allies abandoned, trust damaged. The biggest historical carbon footprint, not stepping up to fix it. This isn't about blaming the American people. Millions oppose these policies. They lead climate strikes. They march for peace. They demand better. But a nation's character is shown by its actions, its wars, its treaties, its emissions. And if we judged countries like we judge people, liar, a backstabber, someone who never takes responsibility, we wouldn't call them trustworthy. We don't need to hate America to say this. We just need to care about truth, because you can't fix a problem if you won't name it. And until powerful nations are held to the same rules as everyone else, a rules-based world order is just a nice phrase. Let's start treating it like one.